Hello, I'm Councilmember Justin Olson. Welcome to this month's Council Update. I'm happy to be here today to talk about an important topic with our very own Fire Chief, John Pritchard. Chief Pritchard, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Councilmember.
Yes. We are here today to talk a little bit about the Cottage Grove Fire Department, how EMS works, what it does, 5-year strategic plan. We could probably be here all day, but we're going to try to keep this relatively short so that we can inform the community about exactly what's going on with the fire department. We want to engage, we want to educate, make sure that we give all the information that we can, but obviously it's important for people to know what it is that you do, why you do it, how we train and prepare, all of those things, okay? So one question that has come up, at least to me, several times this month has to do with EMS services. Some people may not know that while we're ready to put a fire out, there may be medical calls. And by far, the most common type of call we go on is a medical call. So what can you tell us about EMS services in Cottage Grove?
Thank you again, Councilmember, for having me. And actually, EMS is one of our most proudest areas and services that we provide. The fire department responds to tons of different emergencies, including structure fires like you alluded to, but we also respond to what we call BLS and ALS calls. If you're like me, I don't like jargon, so we'll just cut through that. So EMS, what we say is emergency medical services, so the ambulance, and then ALS is advanced life support, and BLS is basic life support. So we run those ambulances when folks call 911 with a medical emergency, and we're there to help you out, whether it's a structure fire or if you fell down and broke your leg. We're there to help you at any time of day.
Okay. So you mentioned ALS and BLS.
Yep.
Tell me a little more about that. I know that, when we outfit our ambulances, we outfit those for ALS service in case that's necessary, but BLS seems to be somewhat more common. Can you just briefly explain the difference?
So BLS, basic life support, and then ALS, advanced life support. So one of the things we're proud of in this community is that we provide a paramedic on every emergency call that we go to.
Okay.
So every call we go to, we're ready to be advanced life support providers. Like you alluded to, that basic life support, it is probably, a good chunk of our calls, and that might be something where somebody doesn't have a life-threatening emergency, but they need to go to the hospital. So advanced life support is is a paramedic, and so an advanced life support provider can be up to 1,500 hours of training.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, years of just getting that experience. They can do anything from giving you pain medication to putting a breathing tube down your throat. So truly, they're like critical care on wheels. Now, on the other hand, basic life support, it's incredibly important, but it's usually what we consider an EMT, and they have about 150 hours of training. So when you compare the two, advanced life support's 10 times as much training. And then that basic life support provider can use things like an AED to restart your heart. They can help with breathing, but truly those ALS providers would provide that critical link and that critical care between your medical emergency at home and to the emergency department.
Wow, that's incredible. So I think what I'm hearing is if you're going to have a problem, you want to have a problem in Cottage Grove because you're going to get advanced life support in addition to basic life support. Now, do all ambulance services provide that? Is that common?
So some ambulance services, what we call a tiered response. So if you call dispatch or 911 and they hear like, oh, that doesn't sound like a life-threatening emergency, they'll send out a BLS ambulance.
Okay.
But the problem though is that BLS ambulance gets there and all of a sudden it's like, oh, this is a really much more severe emergency. Now we have to wait even a longer time to get an ALS ambulance there. Now for Cottage Grove, you're going to get that ALS ambulance right away. So we're ready to take care of like things that aren't life-threatening to somebody that's heart is stopped. So that's the big benefit of our system is we're going to give you a paramedic right away, where other systems you might get that BLS ambulance first with 2 EMTs, and then you might have to wait longer to get that ALS ambulance. And I think that's what makes our service very unique and exceptional service to our community.
Boy, that sounds like a game changer to me. Not only the fact that you get the care that you need immediately, but the response time for waiting on another ambulance after the first one is going to be significantly greater than if you actually had a Cottage Grove Fire Department ambulance show up, because they're ready to go right there.
Absolutely.
Now that has to require a lot of training and planning and equipment and all of that. And I've seen a lot of questions about sort of the cost related to
Yes.
all of those things. Let's start a little bit with equipment. We have 3 ambulances.
Correct.
What does an ambulance really cost these days? And then you mentioned if you have ALS service, you have all these other doodads on the
Yep.
on the ambulance. So what does it cost to outfit that ambulance?
And great question, and I think it's going to shock some folks at how much it does cost to outfit an ambulance. So the ambulance alone, regardless of what type of care, is about $300,000, and that's for your base model, basic ambulance with no frills.
Okay.
Then on top of that, just to get a stretcher system in is another $75,000. And now we start talking about advanced life support. So things like cardiac monitors, that's about $50,000. A stretcher system, $75,000. And then some of the other advanced life support things. We carry ultrasound. We can literally look at your heart if it's beating or not. That's about $3,000.
Okay.
Since our paramedics really are cutting edge, we actually have ventilators to help people breathe and provide extra breathing support. That's $15,000. And so all said and done, you're looking at $300,000 base ambulance plus well over $150,000 of equipment, medications, and all that other type of equipment.
Well, then, knowing all of that, let's talk a little bit about billing. So I assume when an ambulance actually shows up, their job is, let's help me out, let's get me feeling okay, and let's get me to the hospital. Now, you and your staff go on that trip as well, right? So you're out of service for a period of time, and then you have to come back and do all those things. So how do you bill all of that? What does that cost?
In the United States of America, it's really the system of EMS ever since its beginnings in the 60s is that we bill for services that we go on. So of course our paramedics don't leave you an invoice at your house when we provide care. And we provide care to anyone regardless of their ability to pay.
Okay.
But after that service, like you alluded to, we document it and then we send a bill to somebody's insurance company. And then that's whether your insurance is through a big provider, Medicare, Medicaid, and then those insurance companies pay the city for the services that we provided for them. Unfortunately, a lot of those costs are not completely recuperated because of different insurance companies don't actually pay the full rate of what it costs to provide an ambulance, and unfortunately that creates some shortfalls.
Okay. Now, you mentioned Medicare, Medicaid. It's been in the news quite a bit that some of those reimbursements have been lacking. They've been falling short, and in fact, there's even been some chats about, I believe, Medicare cuts at some point. So how does that impact our billing?
Yeah, so Medicare and Medicaid, I mean, they're good programs. It gets our older folks and our older neighbors making sure they have access to care and those disadvantaged folks to have access to care. However, Medicare and Medicaid, they haven't, in terms of what they pay for services, they haven't kept up with what it costs to provide medical care. And whether you're a hospital or an ambulance, it's just not providing the reimbursements to cover the costs of care.
I see. And is that just a Cottage Grove thing, or is that sort of national?
Great question. That's national, and it's becoming a crisis for a lot of EMS agencies, hospitals, clinics, everywhere around the United States. It's a major problem.
So from a council member's perspective, what that means, and correct me if I'm wrong, John, is when we sit down to do our budget each year, we take more and more of our budgeted funds to contribute to maintaining the ambulance service or the EMS service, because the cost to run that service is what it is. There's no negotiating that. And then when the reimbursement rates don't catch up, that creates more of a burden for the taxpayer to really help fund that service. But the whole thing is very complex, right? And it requires a lot of study and a lot of information on the part of the staff and your team to give to the council to make sure that we, keep the boat afloat, as it were. I can tell you that when I was first a council member, and I started in 2008, the majority of our funding for the ambulance service came out of what's called a EMS fund, which is an enterprise fund. That means it's dedicated to that one thing. And about 75% of the funding for the service came out of that one fund, and the remaining 25% came out of the general fund that all of us who live in Cottage Grove, including me and you as taxpayers, contribute each year. And now that ratio has shifted closer to 50-50. And without some changes in the way that billing is done, or perhaps some help from the state or federal government, that is going to continue to tip the wrong way. Does that sound accurate?
That's accurate. And to your point, Councilmember Olson, other cities and suburbs that run ambulances service through their fire department are seeing the same thing and the same issue. So we are definitely not alone with it. And as we face those challenges with this under reimbursement for Medicare, Medicaid, and those other insurance companies, it does create challenges for local governments to keep up with that funding the programs and the ever expanding cost of providing high quality EMS care to the community.
The fact of the matter is, it's an amazing service. It is a huge benefit for the residents of our community. You mentioned they get that ALS care, they get that BLS care on the spot, and I know the City Council is 100% committed to maintaining that service, no matter how complex, no matter how challenging the issue is, no matter how difficult something is for you or a family member. We are going to make sure that that service exists, because to me, it is absolutely a critical service that we provide to our residents. Now, the last thing I want to ask you is medics. You said you have medics on every ambulance, and medics aren't easy to find. So what are some of the things that we're doing in the city to make sure that we have those highly trained professional medics? I think you said 1,500 hours of training approximately. How do we make sure that we have those folks available to do the things that need to be done when they need to be done? Because you can't go without. You have to have them.
And that's a great question. And as EMS needs have been growing, it's harder to find paramedics. So one of the things we're very proud of, we've created a program it's called an accelerated recruitment program.
Okay.
So we'll hire folks that are firefighter EMTs, and some of our best candidates actually come from our part-time system throughout the years, folks that don't work full-time for us. We hire them full-time, we get them in a paramedic program, and in about 15 months they're full-fledged paramedics. And I'm happy to say our first 2 folks that went through that program just passed their paramedics.
How amazing.
And so
that's so great.
It's success, and we're so happy to have them, and they're already working as paramedics, so we're incredibly proud of that program.
I can tell you, as a business operator myself, growing your talent from within is absolutely the best way. I know we've had a lot of success with our police department doing the same thing, so it sounds like you're following a similar model. Great. Well, John, that's so amazing that we're doing that, and congratulations to the 2 who went through, and I think we might have one in.
We have 2 more
process
starting in January.
Okay,
So
all right,
they have
good.
our full support.
Outstanding. Well, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, Councilman.
You're a wealth of information. I very much appreciate the time that you've given. And for the folks at home, I hope you've learned a little bit more about the ambulance service that John and his team operate, and they do a great job with that. The benefits of having that ALS and BLS service available the minute they hit your house, and all of the complexities that go around with running that service, everything from buying ambulances to putting the equipment on to billing, etc. So for this month's council update, again, I am Councilmember Justin Olson. Thank you, Chief Pritchard.
Thank you, Councilmember.
Great having you here. And we will see you all next time. Thank you.